Dear learners, now we will talk about the writing for radio of various programs like news, current affairs, interview, script, sound bites. How we have to write each kind of a section in the for the radio programs. Writing for radio is different from the writing for print. First, you have less space for the information, so you will have to prioritize and summarize carefully. Second, your listener cannot reread sentences they do not understand the first time. Here means reread means re-listen it. You have to keep your writing simple and clear. Avoid unfamiliar words, avoid abbreviations while writing for the radio. Sometimes we can it is possible to write repeat important words means important sentence in the program. Coming to the radio news, the principles of writing news is very simple. Be precise, brief, neutral and objective, but nonetheless interesting. In case of it is not interested, the listener who do not listen the news. This is what news language is all about. Make short sentences to ensure that listeners can understand everything quickly. Instead of using a lengthy word, you use a simple word with a minimum letters. Instead of a lengthy or complex sentence, you use a simple sentences with a few words. There is a many surveys which are revealed that a minute of a time a listener whose capacity is listen of 120 words only. So, we have to write the based on that focus on the subject or a point or brief it, because it should be clear to the listener, because that is a odd only once. So, we have to focus here the main points only. Whereas, coming to the newspapers, there is a time for the news reader who can read the newspaper whenever he leisure. But here in the news radio news it is not possible. Only the bulletins which are broadcasted in a particular times, maybe that is a 30 minutes program. Enough 30 minutes program, in a 30 minutes of a news bulletin, there is a n number of various events to be covered, like from the general news to a political news, sports news, cultural news, business news, various kinds of a news have to be covered in that bulletin. So, there is a space, there is a time space is here is the important point for the radio news. So, while we have to write, we have to be focused on the ethics also here, because many radio news which are part in the rules and regulations by the government, time to time they gives some norms, some guidelines to the press that is applicable to the radio news also. Many radio news, maybe AM is a part of the All India Radio. So, that is a public broadcasting agency. So, they can follow, there is a code is there, so they can follow it, there is no problem. But coming to the FM radios, so while writing for the FM radio news, a 2-minute program only, but we have to be focused, brief, neutral and objective must be follow while writing news for the radio, FM radio or maybe that is AM radio. In news, the most important information comes first, because we have a one style, that is a inverted pyramid style in the news. We can use a general form. What will be happens in the inverted pyramid style? The main points which are covers in the first, later subsequently the least important points will cover at the end. In the newspaper the same is following, the same is here in the television, maybe in the radio news. Though not necessarily at the beginning of the sentence, which are not important points to be covered. Only focus first very much important points, and least is a very least important points. The first sentence or the first two sentences contain the core of the information. Generally we call it is a lead sentence, lead paragraph. The same is applies to your radio news. Radio news cannot possibly go into all the details of the news like in the print media because of a constant of the time. Whereas in print media also there is also constraints like a space constraints. So there is also giving important points only. But now we have a emergence of electronic means, they are giving a URL link to read more on the particular topic. You can click it and you read it. But here whether coming to the radio it is not possible. That is why we have to give in a little and focus on the topic. Radio news therefore caters to the essential elements without sacrificing the core points in the news. The most important news is to be conveyed to the listener so that he can or she can listen to it without any distraction. Therefore, it is important to identify and restrict the news to one or two important points rather than giving unimportant details which confuse the listener. Another major part in the writing for the radio is a current affairs. Generally we call it is a radio report, where we will cover the current affairs also. Current affairs is a genre of broadcast journalism, where the emphasis is on detailed analysis and the discussion of news stories that have recently occurred or are ongoing at the time of broadcast. This different from regular news broadcast that place emphasis on news reports presented for a simple presentation as soon as possible, often within a minimum of analysis. Interview is another part. The interview is a popular and effective format of a program which makes the program come alive. This is the most popular method of presenting information in print and television as well. The more human interest you can bring to the program, the better, as there is nothing better than hearing real people tell their stories, because here human interested stories are very much familiar in any media, maybe it is a print or electronic media or a social media. So we have to give a particular point, particular program that is focused on the expert who gives the information about him and about the topic and about his organization. How to prepare a script? Imagine as talking to a friend. So this is the formula we have to use while writing for the radio. What questions does friend ask? Answering these questions one by one will help you write with the listener in mind. Draft a rough outline based on the talking to a friend. Exercise it regularly. You will be good in writing the script. Decide whether to tell it a chronological order or with the most important facts first or some other way. This is we call in inverted pyramid style in a newspaper. While we have to keep it in our mind to write a good script, some guidelines are given. Start with an arresting sentence. We call it is a hook. So it attracts the listener to listen that topic, that program. A radio feature and a commentary is written in words that create appropriate atmosphere and concrete pictures in the listener's mind. While we see in a cricket commentary, there is a listener who feels that he is in the stadium, he is listening. So, our script should be like that only. So, it should be attract the listener to listen that commentary, maybe it is a radio feature or a radio news, whatever it is. It is by improving the script and presenting it creatively that a radio feature writer and commentator make even the most complex subject appear simple. Sound bites will come in between the interview or in between the news program. Sound bite means a short audio clip, maybe it is a 20 to 30 seconds. Generally radio news stories split their time evenly between narration and sound bites. 30-second sound bite is a comfortable part to be included in the radio news stories. In this section we learnt about the how to write for the radio in various programs like news, current affairs, interviews, scripts and sound bites. Whatever it is, for writing something we must keep it in our mind that should be a simple and short sentence. So, it may be to a television script, maybe a news script, newspaper script, maybe it is to a radio script, whatever it is. We must keep it in our mind while writing any part, any point to any media house should be a simple, short and easy to understand the listeners or readers or viewers. Thank you very much, dear students.